Morning, Liz. Morning, everyone. As you can see, I just woke up. You too, probably. So I think starting next week, I'm going to change up the classes just a little bit. I was looking at my calendar yesterday, and I've been teaching live online classes for, I guess today would be 19 days straight. And so somehow I've made myself busier now than I was before this whole thing started. I used to teach 5 classes a week, and 2 of those classes were on the same day. And now I'm teaching every single day, and I'm one of the rare ones that's still working as well. And so I've been finding, well, my husband's been finding that his body is really tired. He's been trying to keep up. I think he did about 5 in a row. And so I think that, especially because I have people like my mother joining, who's done so well to keep up. And I had been doing Monday to Friday as more of a challenging class. And I think moving into next week, I'll kind of alternate, like every other day. I'll do not necessarily like a just on the floor restorative, but just kind of gentle movement, hatha style. And yeah, then we'll do some of those tougher, more challenging classes, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. So grab some ingredients. If you have a few books or blocks, a pillow, a couch cushion, anything like that. Coffee, water. And we're gonna start reclined on our backs. And if you have some pillows, it's really nice to place a few pillows just under your knees here. And these pillows under your knees start to support your low back. So finding your way into a nice relaxed Shavasana. And as you recline down onto your back, start to relax the belly and deepen the breath. And it can be helpful here to place one hand on the belly, one hand on the heart space. And we'll open our time together with 3-part breath. And so if you're familiar with 3-part breath, you can go right ahead. A reminder that the belly is the first to rise and the last to fall. And if you're still new to 3-part breath, we'll start with the part 1. So breathing into the low belly with your inhales. And we'll just start there, feeling whichever palm you've placed on your belly rise every time you breathe in, and fall every time you breathe out. And doing your best in this way to raise that belly even higher every single time. Deepening your inhales, belly rises. And lengthening your exhales, belly falls. Just taking a few breaths here in this way. And as you're breathing in this way, your exhale implores just a little bit of your core strength so that you could emphasize the exhale by drawing your navel back towards your spine. So sort of helping facilitate a greater exhale. Belly rises and falls. And we'll add on to this with part 2. So your next breath in, belly rises. See if you can breathe a little deeper. Feel your ribs expand. And then with your exhale, your ribs first collapse. And then your belly falls, navel to spine. Inhale, belly rises. Ribs expand. Exhale, ribs collapse. Belly falls. Breathing in this way for a few more rounds, really trying to get that control over the breath. Belly rises, ribs expand. Ribs come in, belly falls. And to add the 3rd part here, we breathe in, the belly rises, the ribs expand, and the heart lifts. So completely filling your torso with breath, and with the exhale, the heart falls first, control the breath, the ribs collapse, the belly falls. So there's an element of control here to keep the belly lifted. As you breathe in, belly rises, ribs expand, heart lifts. Exhale, heart falls. Ribs collapse, belly falls. And there's almost a subtle push that we give the low belly in order to keep it raised, to keep it inflated. Deepening your breath in, belly rises, ribs expand, heart lifts. Exhaling, heart falls, ribs collapse, belly falls. I'm just breathing here in this way. Controlling the breath is a huge part of the practice of yoga. And in yoga, we don't just look at the breath the same way that we look at it kind of nonchalantly in the West. The word prana or pranayam is breath work in Sanskrit. And it translates directly into English as life force. And so you're holding this 3-part breath here for the next few moments. And this life force, yogis have discovered, and we're talking thousands of years ago, that respiration is part of what causes decay and death for the body eventually. And so the yogi, by controlling respiration, by controlling breath, and therefore controlling oxidation of cells, a yogi often lived a much longer life than other people. They held a belief that we only get so many breaths to breathe in a lifetime. And if we are stressed and living up in our chest, then we're breathing rapidly. We're wasting a lot of those breaths. And so they seek this calm, tranquil peace that allows for a very slow, very steady, very controlled breath, thus providing this life force energy. And a few more rounds here. On your next exhale, start to release the effort of your 3-part breath. And instead, move to just a nice, deep, slow breath. And for our purposes this morning, we're going to work with a very calming, very grounding breath in which the exhale is extended. And so you might start this breath in a way that the inhale is about 4 counts. So inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as you breathe in this way, you might extend, you might double the exhale if that feels comfortable and sustainable for you. But starting to just consider a lengthened exhale for the purpose of shutting down cortisol stress response and shifting us into the sympathetic, the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and repair. Now from here, bring your knees into your belly for a nice big hug. And if you've been using that pillow under your knees, we're going to go ahead and take that pillow, lift the hips and slide it right underneath the hips. And then from here, take your knees nice and wide and walk your hands towards the outer edges of your calves, your ankles, or the outer edges of your feet. Letting your knees come inward. Your elbows come inwards to help hold the knees outwards. And you might point and flex the feet here, rolling out ankles. And see if you can settle into those lengthened exhales. Noticing any sensations here in the hips, the groin, the legs, the low back. As we prepare to move through a more gentle flow, your mind becomes restless. And so when you find that there are many thoughts being thunk, see if you can just release the mind and come back to the breath. And this is a skill. This is the skill of cultivating presence. I like to think of the mind almost like a puppy that needs to be told what to do. A puppy that maybe you're trying to train. An unruly puppy. And the concept is sit, stay, be quiet. That's what we're training the mind to do. That's what we're training the metaphorical puppy to do. To sit, stay, be quiet. And this is a practice that you can do in the middle of a crisis. As the mind starts entertaining all of the worst case scenarios and you say, sit, stay, be quiet. None of that. Right now, just notice what is real and what is true. Here we are on our back in a happy baby pose, just breathing. The mind likes to entertain, but the world is falling apart. Yes, but in this moment, we are safe. In this very moment, we are supported. There are so many variables that can control the future. Your mind can't entertain all of those. And so let it go and be here now. Now is the only moment that really truly exists. The future only comes as a now moment, and so your ability to stay present is relevant always. And a nice big breath in. And then from here, release your legs and just straighten them up towards the sky. Take your arms up as well. You might roll wrists and ankles. Maybe stretching out the wrists here by taking right fingers to left fingers, palm to the sky, and just pulling fingertips back towards the wrist. And then taking it the other way, fingertips forwards towards the wrist. And then switching sides, left fingers grab right fingers, pulling them back, palm to the sky. And pulling them forwards. Then let's bring the palms together to touch and interlace all the fingers and just make a few little circles into the wrists. Rotating at the ankles, maybe going the opposite direction. And then release the hands and really let the shoulders settle into the mat. Keep the arms lifted, keep the legs lifted. Find a nice big breath in. And as you exhale, pull your right knee down in towards your body. Interlace your hands over top of your right knee. Right knee pulls in nice and close. And as we exhale, let's start to lower that left leg all the way down to the mat. Deepening your inhales and lengthening your exhales and just noticing the sensations here. And where is the mind? Sit, stay, be quiet. Just because we can think doesn't mean that it's always helpful. And as I've said before, yoga truly is the practice of mastering the mind. Using the body to do so. Keep drawing that right knee in, feel the sensation, and we're going to take some very small, tiny movements, allowing right knee just to start to open right really slowly, one little bit of movement at a time, and just notice every sensation that there is to notice along the way. Get still and quiet and observative with your mind. And you might even take the right knee into the right arm or right hand, releasing left arm out to the side. Finding your breath. Deepening your inhales and lengthening your exhales. Now, if you have a book or a block or another pillow handy, you might want it towards your left hip now. You might not. You might want both, a pillow over a book. And when you're ready, we'll take that right shin into the left hand, release the right hand out to the side, and gently start to cross that right knee over really slowly, slowly, slowly. And you might stop midway in the air at some point, at which point your sole of your right foot can come down to your left thigh just to help you stay. And if you do happen to come all the way over, your inner right knee finds maybe a book or
together to touch. Let your heels just drop heavy. Palms to the tops of the knees, and keep the toes together. Let the knees drift apart. You might grab even the tops of the shins just to hold the knees in place as you let the legs get heavy. And if the toes drift away, that's okay, but they're still moving towards one another. And the arms then act as a way to just kind of heavy the inner thighs. Find your breath. Deep inhales and long exhales. Find a nice big breath in. As you exhale, release those knees, bring them inwards. Extend the legs to the sky. Flex both feet. And bend your left knee, taking sole of left foot to the ground. Now from here, we can lift our hips and remove our pillow if it feels like too much. Otherwise, you can keep it put. Mine's only lifting me a tiny bit. Keep your right foot flexed, bend into your right knee, and cross the right ankle over top of that left knee. Right hand gently presses the right knee away. Now find your breath here. And when you're ready, begin to draw your left leg in towards the body any amount. Hands can reach through and interlace behind the thigh or over top of left shin. Find your breath. Releasing that right hip, right glute. And a nice big breath in as you draw left leg even closer. Now we're going to try to keep the shape of the legs. Breathe in. And as you exhale, drop the legs in this shape over to the left side. Your left foot will come down first, then potentially your left shin, and then your sole of the right foot. You might even grab for the sole of the right foot with the left hand, taking right knee to the sky if you can. Find your breath here. Gazes up or over right shoulder. Finding your breath, noticing what it is that you're feeling in your body and where. And notice how you might be resisting or backing away from. And we only back away from pain, but discomfort we lean into. And so just finding for yourself if there is any need to kind of lower or lengthen that right hip away from the ribs. Heavying the right hip. Big breath here. Now as we exhale, we're going to begin to release the left, or the right ankle rather. Start to lift the left knee so the knees begin to cross. And then we'll pull both knees into the belly in this crossed shape. And allow the hips to shift side to side. So the way that the knees are crossed is that the back of the right thigh is kind of on top of the left thigh. And we can grab a hold of opposite shins or just reach the arms around the top knee. Notice the sensation here in the hips. And a nice big breath in. And then exhale, straighten the legs and uncross them. This time, flexing at the ankles and bringing the sole of the left foot, no, just kidding, right foot down towards the mat. And then from here, a firmly flexed left ankle crosses right on top of the right knee, and we start to draw that left knee away. So we always want the left knee here moving away from the body. Find your breath. And when you're ready, begin to lift any amount right leg towards the body. You might reach hands through to grab the space behind the thigh, or maybe on top of the shin. Continue moving left knee away from the body. Deepening your inhales. Lengthening your exhales. Noticing what it is that you feel here. And keeping your mind present to your ever-growing breath. Inhale 4 counts. Exhale 6 to 8. Stay present. Tell the mind, sit, stay, be quiet. Just observing all of the sensations of the present moment. Be here fully now. Big breath in. Now we'll start to find the twist. So the sole of your right foot will come down. And then we'll start to drop the legs to the right hand side. So the right ankle, right shin, right knee. Maybe eventually the sole of the left foot, but maybe not. That foot might stay hovered. You might reach for left ankle with right hand. And really press left knee away from the body, gazing up or over your left shoulder. Find your breath. Notice the sensations that are available here. Deepening your inhales and lengthening your exhales. Notice the many ways that we try to escape the sensation. We might have labored our breathing or started to breathe more shallowly. Or maybe the mind has been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of distractions. Perhaps we're tensing up all of the muscles in the places we're trying to relax them. So just notice where you're at. Relax your jaw, relax all of those additional muscles. Deepen your breath and bring your mind back into the present moment. Never trying to rush out of the sensation, but just allowing the discomfort to be present, to coexist right now. Feel your belly rise and fall. Nice big breath in. And exhale very, very slowly. We're going to start to lift that right knee so that we take the top of the right thigh to the back of the left thigh, bringing the knees into a cross. And then just pulling both knees towards the body. So the back of your left thigh is resting on the top of your right thigh, and you might let your hips move side to side. And if hip flexors are tight, pulling these legs in feels really difficult. Just find a few breaths here. As if you could send all of your inhales to the places that feel tight and tense and stuck. Nice big breath in. Exhale, release the hands, arms and legs up towards the sky. And just shake out wrists and ankles here. But a nice big breath in, knees to the belly. We're gonna start to rock and roll, maybe taking hands behind the thighs and coming eventually all the way up to seated. Meeting in a nice seated place right on top of that pillow if you still have it. And then from here, let's extend the legs forward. So seated up on top of a pillow gives us a little bit of an advantage in our fold. If your hamstrings are feeling really tight, take your second pillow and just stick it underneath your knees, and that'll just help to ease the stress of a forward fold here. Hands come towards the thighs, lift and lengthen your spine, breathe in. Keep your feet about hip bone distance apart. And then exhale, start to offer your belly and your ribs down towards your thighs. Just a really gentle fold, allowing the fold sensation to come from your seat if possible. And we can achieve that by trying to narrow the space between belly and thighs. So as much as you could bring your rib cage in the direction of your thighs. Try to keep your spine straight, especially your low back here, offering your heart forward. And with belly moving towards thighs, low back straight, heart lifted, we can just allow the chin to drop towards the chest. Feeling all of the sensations, I start to feel tremendous energy run through the low back, lots of tingling sensations, blood flow. Notice what you're feeling. And find your breath. Let your breath move deeply into the belly and slowly out the nose. Relaxing your shoulders down heavy, away from your ears, and perhaps even turning your palms to the sky, backs of the hands to the mat. Continue pulling your heart forward as you offer belly to thighs. There are places in the body that just don't get enough oxygen, enough blood flow, enough circulation, and they start to get tight. Especially when we are sitting excessively or standing excessively in ways that are not anatomically correct for the body, that are not ergonomic for the body. And so oftentimes coming to a restorative practice is kind of doing the things we should be doing daily anyways, but we don't. Spending the much needed time in these stretching postures that we should, but we just don't. And this is where the mind grows bored, and so bring the mind back into the present moment, back into your breath.
We'll find a nice deep breath here. And as you exhale, use your fingertips to start to walk yourself back up. Now we're going to move into a restorative frog pose. So make sure that you have a blanket for your knees. And the blanket you're going to lay out, fold it in half so it gets thick. My dog took my blanket, so I might try something else. And you'll take your 2 blocks. And we're going to place those blocks on their lowest height, blocks or books or anything that you have. And these are just extras that help support. And we'll place another pillow down on top of the blocks or the books. And then we want to take the knees wide, wide, wide. Hey, I just grabbed these because you took my blanket. Come on, over here. Over here. Let's see, Colin. And then from here, knees come wider than your mat if possible. Your groin will tell you what's possible and what's not. Fingertips come forward underneath the shoulders. And then we're going to open out, well, now that he's gone, we're going to open out the knees. And then the ankles to match the knees. So moving into a restorative frog pose, turn your toes in the same direction your knees are pointing. And what we tend to see with this posture here is hips want to move back or forward. But we want to keep the hips in line with the knees as we start to lower the belly down towards our props. Now, if you have no props, come to your forearms and use your forearms to support your body. And see if you can continue to keep your hips in line with your knees. Now, if you just look over your shoulder and you see that your hips are way far back, take your knees wider. And then find your breath and hold here. We've opened up the outer edges of the hips, and now we'll open up the inner edges of these same joints. And this is the type of sensation that we resist with all our might. And so notice all of your defense mechanisms coming in. Your breath starts to shallow. You start to stiffen the body. You become rigid. You resist the stretch. And your mind starts to wander because a thinking mind is not a present mind. And if the mind is not present right now, we're escaping the difficult sensations that we might be feeling and the discomfort of the physical body. So come back to the moment. Make peace with discomfort. And just allow it to coexist in your reality. Knowing that this too shall pass. Perhaps you can start to see how your yoga practice really becomes a metaphor for any difficulties that we face in life. Because there are those that really do a great job to weather the storm, and then there are those that just don't cope. And we can learn coping. These are tools for our tool belt. We can learn to make peace with trials and tribulations that we didn't choose for ourselves, but here they are, thrust upon us in our reality. And what are we going to do? Are we going to seize up and start resisting and stop breathing? Start overthinking worst case scenarios? Or are we going to relax into the discomfort and enjoy this part of the ride in the best way that we can? And actually, what you'll find is that discomfort is a necessity. Because nothing changes if nothing changes, and change is uncomfortable. This is why we talk so much about the comfort zone and being thrust outside of it. Let your breath continue to move in and out, uninhibited through the body. Get heavy for your last few breaths. Release any tension any resistance. Again, no pain, just discomfort. And without rushing, let's pretend this is our favorite pose. Take your palms under your shoulders. Start to take the weight into your hands and move your toes towards one another so that we might sit back onto the heels in a wide-legged, almost child's pose position. And then take your time to start to draw your knees towards one another. This can be really intense, so move very slowly. And then let's bring the knees together and move into a supported child's pose. So the knees come together, we sink the heels and the hips towards one another, and then just rest the body down, maybe onto your pillows that you've already got in place. And just find a few breaths here in this posture that is the opposite from the last one we just did. Let your breath move in and out. Deepening your inhales and lengthening your exhales. Last few breaths here. Notice your mind as it starts to wander and collect it. Bring it back. Sit, stay, be quiet. And a nice big breath in. And as we exhale, use your palms to help the body rise all the way up. We'll just start to make some space on our mat, so moving your props off to the side and keeping anything close that you might want for your Shavasana. And we'll start to make our way down onto the back into our Shavasana, taking any final poses that we might like, perhaps another happy baby, perhaps just knees into the belly. My favorite way to close any class is legs up the wall, and you would find that, I don't know if you can see from here, but you would bring your hips nice and close to the wall, and then walk your legs up as you walk your arms behind you. Taking legs up and body down, and you might need to use your elbows to shift your hips towards the wall. So your choice, how you want to spend your time in Shavasana. Taking as much time as you need to settle in. Once you start to settle into your final resting pose, your Shavasana, start to relax your breath. Perhaps even taking a nice big breath in through the nose and sighing it out. And then allow your body to get heavy and to rest. Never mind any of the distractions going on around you. Just be here now. Deep breaths in and slow, long breaths out. And as always, I am closing from just a part of this book. And every time I read it, I'm reading it for the first time. Although you cannot know consciousness, you can become conscious of it as yourself. You can sense it directly in any situation, no matter where you are. You can sense it here and now as your very presence. The inner space in which the words on this page are perceived and become thoughts. It is the underlying I am. The words you are reading and thinking are the foreground, and the I am is the substratum, the underlying background to every experience, thought, and feeling. Feeling free to stay in this nice rested Shavasana for as long as you need. There's no rush. And seeing if you can hold on to presence as you move through your day. And that's difficult. That is a moment to moment to moment practice. It is one that requires you to constantly check in and ask if what you're feeling is real, remembering that you are not your emotions. And so allowing your emotions to come and go, the I am presence remaining unaffected. Have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. I will see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. if you like, otherwise on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.